I was looking at this stack of research we have for today, and honestly, it feels a bit like a prank.
Yeah, how so?
Well, you've got every tech CEO on the planet talking about AGI, artificial general intelligence, like it's right around the corner.
Roadmaps.
Exactly, these incredible digital roadmaps.
Right.
But then you look at this report, and it's basically waving this giant red flag that just says, that's cute, but you literally won't be able to turn it on.
Yeah, it's a splash of cold water for sure. We're all looking up at the cloud, right? Obsessing over the software, the models, the chatbots. But the real problem isn't in the code. It's on the ground. It's in the copper wires and the transformers.
Right. It's that disconnect that really struck me. The source material calls it the looming AI energy crisis, but I don't know, that almost sounds too soft. It feels more like a wall.
I agree.
We're building what the researchers call megacities of silicon, which, by the way, sounds like a great sci-fi movie title.
It really does.
But we're trying to power these futuristic cities with an electrical grid that was designed when our biggest appliance was, what, a toaster.
That's the core conflict right there. You have 21st century computational demand meeting, 20th century infrastructure. And the quote that kicks off this whole analysis is, it's genuinely terrifying if you're a tech investor.
Exactly.
It says, more or less. Everyone is drawing roadmaps to AGI, but almost no one is checking if the power grid can actually handle the load.
Okay, so that's our mission for this deep dive.
Yeah.
We're going to look at why your billion-dollar AI model might actually be worth like $0 if you can't find the electrons to run it.
And then we'll get to the solution the industry is betting on, which is this massive pivot to nuclear PEC. But not the kind of nuclear you're probably thinking of.
No, not at all. Not the giant cooling tower.
No, something much more precise.
But before we get to the solution, I just want to sit with the problem for a minute. Because I don't think I fully got the scale until I read the data on gigawatt level loads. I mean, I hear gigawatt and I think Back to the Future, 1.21 gigawatts, great Scott. But in the real world, what does that actually mean?
It means we're dealing with a fundamental shift in how we use power. I mean, for the last decade, data centers were mostly for storage. You upload your photos, stream a movie, that takes energy, sure. But AI training, that is a completely different beast. It runs these chips at maximum capacity, 2047. The source compares a modern AI data center's load to adding a mid-sized city to the power grid overnight.
A mid-sized city. So like, imagine taking, I don't know, a place like Dayton, Ohio, or maybe Salt Lake City, picking it up, dropping it onto the grid, and just saying, okay, power this now.
Exactly. And not just power this, but power this with 100% reliability, zero interruptions, forever. The grid just isn't built for that kind of localized shock.
It's like trying to fill a swimming pool with a garden hose.
That's a perfect analogy. You can't just force more water through the hose. The physics don't work. The pipe will burst.
And this isn't some, far-off theory, right?
Yeah.
The source points directly at Northern Virginia Data Center Alley.
Yep.
This is where something like, 70% of the world's internet traffic flows through?
Yeah.
I always just assumed they'd have infinite power capacity.
You would think so, wouldn't you? But the report highlights that Virginia is, it's effectively hitting a wall. It is at capacity.
Wow.
The utility companies there are looking at these requests for new AI campuses and basically just putting up a stop sign. They're issuing moratoriums.
Moratorium.
Oh.
Now that is a heavy word in business. That basically means stop, do not pass go.
It means if you're Microsoft or Amazon or Google and you want to build a new training cluster in the #1 spot on Earth, the utility is telling you, we can't hook you up, maybe in 2028. Maybe 2030.
Wait, hold on. I have to be the skeptic here. These are trillion-dollar companies. They have endless cash. Why can't they just pay to upgrade the grid?
Yeah.
Why does it take 7 years to run a few more cables?
And that's the big disconnect between software speed and hardware speed. In software, if you have money, you hire more engineers, you ship code next week.
Right.
But the grid is physical. You need permits, you need land rights, you need transformers that, and this is a real stat, have a 3-year waiting list just to get delivered from the factory.
3 years.
3 years. You can't just code a new transmission line into existence.
So the physical world is fighting back.
And it's winning. That's the realization that's setting in across the industry. If you have a strategy to dominate AI by 2026, but the power company says you can't plug in until 2029, your strategy is dead. It just doesn't matter how smart your engineers are.
Which brings us to the so what of all this. The industry is realizing it can't rely on the public grid. It's too slow, it's too crowded, it's It's just too old.
So the smart money is pivoting. It's pivoting to what the source calls sovereign energy.
Sovereign energy. I like that term. It sounds powerful.
It implies independence, right?
Yeah.
Taking your destiny into your own hands.
And this is where we get to the solution that sounds, well, like something out of a movie. Small Modular Reactors, SMRs. The source describes them as nuclear reactors the size of a school bus.
The school bus visual is really catchy, but we should be a little careful not to oversimplify it. The size is important, yes, but the real revolution, and the reason tech companies are getting obsessed with this, is the modular part of the name.
Okay, break that down for me. Why does modular matter more than the size?
So think about how we usually build a nuclear plant. It's this massive, massive civil engineering project, takes 10 years, goes billions over budget.
A construction nightmare.
A total nightmare.
Yeah.
Pouring endless concrete on site. SMRs are completely different. They're designed to be factory fabricated. So you build the reactor in a factory, put it on a truck or a train, ship it to the site, and basically plug it in.
Like an IKEA nuclear plant.
In a way, yeah. It turns a one-off construction project into a repeatable manufacturing product. That reduces the risk of delays massively. And because they're smaller, you can chain them together.
Oh, so if you need more power, you just add another module.
You just add another bus to the fleet.
Okay, but I have to push back here. You say factory fabricated nuclear reactor, and my brain immediately goes to regulatory nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, are we really going to see these things popping up in data center parking lots? People get nervous about cell towers.
Right.
You really think they'll let a tech company put a reactor next door?
That is the single biggest hurdle, and the source doesn't shy away from that at all. The technology works, the physics is sound. SMRs have these passive safety systems that make them incredibly safe compared to older designs.
Mm-hmm.
They basically shut themselves down if anything goes wrong.
Okay.
But public perception and the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, the NRC, that's a different story.
The NRC isn't exactly known for its move fast and break things philosophy.
And they shouldn't be, right?
Right.
But the desperation for power is now so high that these tech giants are essentially lobbying to create what they call dedicated energy parks.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine a huge plot of land far from residential areas where you have the data center right next to a cluster of SMRs. No long transmission lines, no reliance on the city grid. Just a closed loop of power and computation.
So it's completely off-grid.
Completely. And that's the appeal. It provides what's called baseload power. Solar and wind are great, but the sun sets and the wind stops.
An AI model can't stop.
An AI training run cannot stop. It needs a flat line of massive power, 247. And right now, nuclear is the only carbon-free way to guarantee that.
The source makes a distinction here that I thought was really sharp. It says moving to SMRs isn't greenwashing.
No.
It's business continuity.
That's a crucial distinction. Usually when a company buys green energy, it's to look good in an ESG report. Look at us, we're saving the planet. This is totally different. This is, if we don't buy this nuclear reactor, our business ceases to function. It's purely existential.
Okay, so let's recap. We've got the problem. The grid is full. We've got the solution. DIY nuclear power. But what I really want to dig into now is this new due diligence checklist the source provided. Because if you're an investor or even just a manager at one of these companies, the rules of the game have just changed completely.
They've completely flipped. If you're evaluating an AI project today using the metrics from 2 years ago, you are going to lose your shirt.
Let's walk through this checklist. The first point is energy-adjusted IRR. Now, I know IRR is internal rate of return. It's the math on how much money a project will make. But how do you energy adjust it?
So typically you calculate return based on, development costs and projected revenue. But the source argues you now have to apply a power risk discount.
A discount, okay.
Here's the scenario. You have a project that looks like it will return 20% year over year. Great. But there's a 30% chance that the utility company delays your power connection by 2 years. You have to factor that 2-year zero revenue period into your math.
So that beautiful 20% return might actually be, 5%? Or even a loss if you get stuck in the queue.
Precisely. If a company pitches you an AI project and says, we're going to build the world's biggest model, your first question shouldn't be, who's the lead engineer? It should be, show me the signed power contract.
Wow.
If they don't have the megawatt secured, you have to assume the project is overvalued. You just have to assume the power won't be there.
That is a brutal way to look at it, but I guess it has to be. Okay, second point on the checklist, the SMR play. And they compare it to buying internet domains in 1993.
Oh, I love this analogy because it speaks directly to scarcity. I mean, think back to 1993. The internet was just starting. If you had the foresight to buy, like, cars.com or insurance.com,
you were set for life.
You were grabbing prime real estate before anyone else even knew it was valuable. Right now, the prime real estate isn't a website name. It's a reservation slot with a company like NVIDIA or Rolls-Royce SMR.
Because these factories can only build so many reactors at a time.
Exactly. There is finite capacity to build the capacity. So if Microsoft signs a deal with NVIDIA to take their first 10 reactors, and then Google comes along a month later, Google isn't just second in line. They might be waiting 5 years because the manufacturing line is fully booked.
It's a land grab.
It's a capacity grab. The companies that lock in these partnerships now are effectively buying the future right to compute. If you wait until the tech is mainstream, you've already lost. You'll be stuck on the legacy grid with everyone else dealing with blackouts.
Which leads right into the third item on the checklist.
Yeah.
The contract clause. The source says every single AI business case now needs an energy risk and advantage section.
This goes right back to the boardroom. If you're in a meeting and someone slides a business plan across the table, you need to flip straight to the section on power, and it has to be detailed.
Not just, we'll pay the utility bill.
No. We're talking, where's the power coming from? Is it a power purchase agreement, a PPA? What's the regulatory status of the site?
And specifically, under what regulation? Because going back to your earlier point, even if you buy the reactor, the government can still say no.
That's the hidden killer right there.
Yeah.
You might have the money and the tech, but if the local zoning board or the federal regulators haven't signed off, you have a billion-dollar paperweight. Due diligence now means hiring regulatory experts, not just software engineers. You need to know if that site in Nevada or Wyoming actually has a clear path to approval. If that section of the business plan is vague, you should run.
It's just wild to think that the moat in tech, the thing that protects your business has shifted so dramatically. For 20 years, the moat was the code, the algorithm.
Right, or the network effect, having all the users on your platform.
But the source suggests this new prompt for the CFO. It says, our AI roadmap is only as real as our power contract.
That's the quote of the year for me. It's so perfect.
And it sets up this idea of kilowatts as the moat. The source says, while competitors chase algorithms, secure the amperes.
I mean, think about it. Algorithms are leaking all over the place. They're becoming commoditized. Open source models are getting unbelievably good.
Yeah, that's true.
2 people in a garage can download a model that rivals what the giants had just 2 years ago. The code is everywhere. But you know what you can't download from GitHub?
A nuclear reactor.
A nuclear reactor. You can't download a gigawatt connection to the grid. You can copy code. You cannot copy a power plant.
Wow.
So the competitive advantage is shifting from the digital world back into the physical world. If I have the power infrastructure and you don't, I can run models that are 10 times larger than yours, and there is absolutely nothing you can do about it. It doesn't matter if your code is more elegant. I have the brute force.
Like the California gold rush.
That's the classic example. The people who made the real money weren't the ones panning for gold. It was the people selling the shovels and the jeans.
Right.
In this new gold rush, the gold is AGI, but the shovel isn't a piece of software anymore. The shovel is the small modular reactor. The shovel is the energy infrastructure.
I want to bring this back down to earth for a second. We've been talking about gigawatts and nuclear reactors and trillion-dollar strategies. But if you're listening to this and you're, say, a mid-level manager or just someone fascinated by this, why does this matter to you?
It matters because this bottleneck is going to dictate the speed of everything else. We keep hearing that AI is going to revolutionize healthcare, finance, education.
All of it.
All of it. But all those revolutions are contingent on this energy problem being solved. If the power isn't there, the tools won't be there. And more practically, if you're in a company planning your own AI strategy, you need to be the person in the room asking the annoying questions.
Annoying questions, lad.
Like, okay, we're moving all our data to the cloud to run these models. Which cloud? Where is that data center physically located? Is it in Virginia? Because if it is, and the grid goes down or they get capped, what happens to our business?
The source actually gives a specific action item for that. Ask your team, what's our plan B when the utility says no?
And I guarantee you, 99% of teams do not have an answer to that question. We have all grown up in a world where electricity is like air. It's just there.
You flip a switch, the light comes on.
Exactly. We aren't mentally prepared for a world where the utility company says, sorry, we're sold out.
That is a scary thought. Sold out of electricity.
But that's the reality of the megacity of silicon.
So to wrap this up, let's just retrace the path we took today. We started with this jarring reality that while the software world is speeding up, the physical grid is hitting the brakes. Hard.
We saw how critical hubs like Data Center Alley are basically tapping out, forcing this crisis where new projects are facing multi-year delays.
Then we looked at the big pivot to sovereign energy companies, realizing they need to own their own power generation. And they're looking at SMRs to provide that clean, always-on baseload.
And we broke down that new financial reality, that due diligence checklist. You have to discount for power risk, you have to treat energy contracts like the new gold rush, and you have to realize that the ultimate competitive advantage, the moat, is no longer in the code. It's in the kilowatts.
That's a lot to process.
Oh.
Especially the idea that these huge tech companies are basically becoming utility companies.
It creates a fascinating tension, doesn't it?
That's actually the final thought I wanted to leave everyone with. The source poses this really provocative question about company culture. We all know the Silicon Valley motto, right? Move fast and break things.
Of course.
It's how we got the iPhone, Facebook, Google. You launch it. If it breaks, you fix it later. Iteration is the religion. But now, the smartest investment move is building nuclear reactors. And you absolutely cannot move fast and break things when you're dealing with nuclear physics. The NRC will shut you down in a heartbeat.
It's a complete culture clash. You're taking software engineers who are used to shipping code overnight, and you're forcing them to work with civil engineers and nuclear physicists who think in terms of decades and safety margins.
So the question is the era of the scrappy startup over? Does this next phase of AI require you to be a giant industrial conglomerate from day one?
I think it just might. We could be watching the end of Move Fast and Break Things and the beginning of Move Fast and Build Power Plants. And frankly, building power plants is a lot harder than writing code.
Move fast and build power plants. It doesn't have the same ring to it, but it might just save the industry.
It's the only way forward.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. Go check your power bills, ask your boss where the electrons are coming from, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Stay powered up. Your AI strategy is about to black out.
Oof.
Right. I mean, that is a terrifying way to start a morning. I think I spilled my coffee when I read that first line.
It's a real splash of cold water.
It is. But honestly, it feels like one the tech industry really needs right now.
I completely agree. It's a wake-up call. We spend so much time, on the software side of things. Who has the best model? Who's on the path to AGI?
Is it open source? Is it closed source? All that.
All of that. And we've just completely ignored the physical reality required to actually run any of it.
It feels a little bit like we're all arguing about which streaming service has the best movies, and meanwhile, someone's outside quietly cutting the cable line to the whole house.
That is a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And that's what this source we're diving into today is all about. It's titled Kilowatts Over Code: The Looming AI Energy Crisis.
Kilowatts over code. I like that.
It's an urgent analysis aimed squarely at, investors, CFOs, tech leaders. And the mission for our deep dive today is pretty simple. We are stepping away from the code. We aren't talking about parameters or neural nets. We are talking about kilowatts.
Because, as the source points out, while everyone is obsessed with their software roadmaps to artificial general intelligence, it seems like almost nobody is checking if the power grid can actually handle the journey.
And the short answer, according to this analysis, no, it can't.
Not even close.
Not even close.
Okay, let's unpack that. Because I think most people, and I'll include myself here, have this vague idea that the cloud is just this, infinite resource. You plug in, power comes out. But the source uses this incredible phrase. It says we're planning megacities of silicon, but trying to plug them into power cables from the last century.
That image really sticks with you, doesn't it? Megacities of silicon. It just captures the scale of what's being built.
It really does.
These aren't just server rooms in a basement anymore. Modern data centers are colossal industrial facilities. But the infrastructure powering them, the grid, the transformers, the lines, a lot of that was designed decades ago.
For a totally different world.
For a world that used electricity very differently. It was built for light bulbs and refrigerators.
Not for training a digital brain that consumes as much energy as a small country.
Precisely. And the source puts a really sharp timeline on this reality check. It points directly to 2026. This isn't some far-off, 10 years from now problem.
This is a next Tuesday problem.
It's happening now. A 2026 reality that apparently most company boards just aren't discussing.
The analysis says AI data centers now demand gigawatt-level loads. Now, I know a gigawatt is a lot, mainly from watching Back to the Future.
Right. Doc Brown.
Yeah.
1.21 gigawatt.
Exactly. But let's get real for a second. What does a gigawatt load actually look like in the real world?
Okay, so let's strip away the sci-fi. A gigawatt-level load is effectively like adding a mid-sized city to the electrical grid.
A mid-sized city?
Overnight, just poof, there it is.
So imagine you suddenly build a city of, 100,000 people? Homes, hospitals, streetlights, factories, and you just decide to plug the whole thing in on a Monday morning?
That is the kind of stress we are putting on the infrastructure with these new AI clusters.
But hold on, if I build a new subdivision, the utility company usually figures it out. Why can't they just, I don't know, run more wires? Why is this such a hard stop?
Because of the physics of the grid. It's not just about generating power, it's about moving it. You need transformers, substations, high-voltage lines.
And those take time.
Years. Years to plan, to permit, to build. You can't just run an extension cord from the power plant. If you try to push gigawatt levels of power through infrastructure that wasn't designed for it, things literally melt.
Okay, melting copper. That puts it in perspective. And the grid isn't just sitting around with a ton of spare capacity waiting for this new city to show up.
Not at all. In fact, we are seeing the bottleneck happening right now. The source zooms in on Virginia, specifically a place known as Data Center Alley.
Which, by the way, sounds like a setting from a cyberpunk novel.
It kind of is. Northern Virginia handles a huge percentage of the world's internet traffic. Something like 70% flows through there every day.
70%. Wow.
But the source points out that this region is essentially full. It's at capacity.
So what happens when a tech giant, a Google, a Microsoft, wants to build the next big training cluster there to get to, say, GPT-6?
They hit a wall. The source calls them power moratoriums. Utility companies are just saying no.
Just no.
No. You can build the building, you can fill it with all the expensive NVIDIA chips you want, but we cannot give you the electrons to turn it on.
That is wild. You can have the budget, the land, the tech, but without the plug, you are completely dead in the water.
And that leads to the financial stakes, which is the really brutal part of this analysis. There's a line in there that every CFO needs to hear.
What's that?
Your billion-dollar model is worth exactly $0 if it cannot get electrons.
Oof. $0. That's some harsh math.
It's the only math that matters. You can spend billions developing the most sophisticated AI in history, but if the screen is black, its value is zero. The constraint isn't code anymore, it's physics.
Okay, I have to play devil's advocate for a minute here. We talk about this energy crisis, but I drive past solar farms and wind turbines all the time. Can't we just cover the data center roof in solar panels?
Yeah, that is the most common question, and the source addresses it directly. The problem isn't the total amount of power we can generate, it's the consistency. AI training runs are incredibly sensitive.
Sensitive how? Like if the power dips, the AI gets dumber.
If the power dips, the training run crashes. You have to restart from a checkpoint, maybe lose days of work. A massive AI model might take weeks, even months to train. It needs a flat, perfect line of electricity.
24/7, 365.
Exactly. And solar and wind are intermittent. The sun sets, the wind stops.
A data center can't just take a nap when it gets cloudy.
Precisely. And batteries at this scale, remember, we're talking gigawatt scale, are just astronomically expensive. So you can't run a hyperscale data center on intermittent renewables alone. You need a massive, reliable baseload.
And the grid, which should provide that baseload, is tapped out.
It's tapped out. Which brings us to the solution proposed in the deep dive. And I feel like this is where things get a little controversial.
Okay.
The source points to SMRs, Small Modular Reactors.
Nuclear.
Yes. This is where the conversation turns to nuclear.
Now, when you say nuclear, my brain immediately goes to, giant cooling towers, the Simpsons, massive exclusion zones. But the source describes these as being the size of a school bus. What are we actually talking about here?
We are talking about a complete reimagining of nuclear tech. SMRs are compact factory-built units. Instead of building a bespoke 10-year concrete cathedral on site, these are manufactured on an assembly line.
And then shipped to the location.
Shipped to the location. The source says they could be deployed on-site or in dedicated energy parks right next to the server farms.
Wait, hold on a second. You're telling me a tech CEO is going to put a nuclear reactor in their parking lot. How is that legal? What about safety?
That's the valid fear. But the technology is fundamentally different. Traditional reactors use active safety systems, pumps that need power to keep the core cool. If the power fails, you have a problem.
Right.
SMRs generally use what's called passive safety.
Passive safety.
It means they rely on physics, things like gravity and natural convection, to stay cool. They don't need external power. They don't need pumps or human intervention. If everything shuts down, they just naturally cool off.
So it's physically impossible for them to melt down in the way we traditionally worry about.
According to the engineering specs in the source, yes. The risk profile is completely different, which is why regulators are starting to look at them differently.
Okay, so assuming we can get over the psychological hurdle of parking lot nuclear, what's the value proposition here? Is this just about tech companies wanting to look green?
The source is very clear on this. This is not about greenwashing. It's not about putting a little leaf icon on your website. This is about business continuity.
It's about survival.
Exactly. SMRs provide that 2047, always-on, flat line of power that solar and wind just can't. It creates total independence from the crumbling public grid.
So if the grid goes down or the utility says no more, the company with its own SMR just keeps on running.
It's the ultimate backup generator, except it runs all the time and it powers your entire business.
Okay, so the problem. The grid is full. The solution. These school bus-sized nuclear batteries. How does this actually change how companies and investors should behave? The source lays out a new due diligence checklist.
And it's really a playbook for the next 5 years.
Right.
The first item on that list is something they call energy-adjusted IRR.
IRR, internal rate of return, basically how much money you expect to make.
Right. But the source argues you have to discount that return by its power risk. The rule of thumb they propose is this. If there is no credible energy plan, the project is overvalued by default.
Wow. That's a huge shift in thinking. Usually you look at a pitch deck, you ask, is the team good? Is the tech solid? Now you have to ask, do they have a socket to plug this thing into?
Let's just play that out. Imagine you're a VC. A startup comes to you, we've got the architecture for GPT-5, but they don't have a signed power contract.
In the old world, you'd fund them in a heartbeat.
In this new world, you have to assume their return is 0 for the first 3 years because they'll just be sitting in a queue waiting for a transformer in Virginia.
The old, we'll figure it out later is not a strategy anymore.
Later might mean never. Which brings up the second point on the checklist, an analogy I absolutely loved. It compares partnering with SMR companies now to buying internet domains in 1993.
It's a land grab.
It's a total land grab.
Yeah.
But instead of grabbing pizza.com, companies are grabbing power capacity. The source mentions a few, like NuScale and Rolls-Royce SMR.
So these are the players actually building the reactor.
Exactly. The argument is that if you secure a partnership with them now, you're locking in your future infrastructure while everyone else is still asleep. By 2027, 2028, when the grid is completely logjammed, having that contract is going to look like owning prime real estate.
It's a futures market for electrons.
That's a great way to put it. You're buying options on future energy availability.
And that leads to the third item. The contract clause. The source advises mandating an energy risk and advantage section in every single AI business case.
This is for anyone listening who works in corporate. You can't just slide a business plan across the desk anymore without answering 3 questions. Where is the power coming from? What's the price? And under what regulation?
Where is the power coming from? Seems like such a basic question, but I guess in the world of cloud computing, we've been trained to think power is infinite and invisible.
We've been spoiled by the abstraction. We think of the cloud as this ethereal thing, but it's a physical place made of metal and copper, and it eats electricity. This analysis is dragging us all back down to the copper wire.
Which brings us to the strategic pivot. The source gives a specific prompt for the CFO, a line to walk into the boardroom with.
Our AI roadmap is only as real as our power contract.
I love that. It just cuts through all the hype. It doesn't matter how smart your data scientists are if the lights won't turn on.
It forces the organization to realize the constraint has moved. And this leads to the idea of the moat.
Right, the competitive advantage.
For a long time in tech, the moat was your code. The best algorithm, the best engineers.
But the source says that's changing. And honestly, looking at how fast open source models are catching up, I can believe it.
It says while your competitors are busy chasing algorithms, the winners will be the ones securing the ampers. The next great infrastructure moat isn't in code, it is in kilowatts.
That is a profound shift. So if everyone has access to similar open source models, the differentiator becomes, I can actually run this thing at scale 24/7 and you can't.
Exactly. If I have sovereign energy through my own SMR park and you're stuck waiting 5 years for a permit from the local utility, I win. It doesn't matter if your code is slightly more elegant, I can run mine, you can't. kilowatts are the new moat.
It's almost a return to industrial economics, like the steel industry or railroads. You have to own the physical assets.
It connects the digital world back to the physical world in a way we haven't seen in a long, long time. We're seeing the industrialization of AI.
Okay, so let's bring this all together. We started with the fear of the blackout, looked at the grid as this clogged artery, and saw why just slapping solar panels on it won't work.
Right. And then we got to the solution, these factory-built nuclear batteries, and how that rewrites the entire investment checklist.
And I think for you, the learner, the key takeaway is to stop looking at AI purely as a software revolution. It's an infrastructure revolution.
Absolutely. Whether you're in finance, tech, or just watching this industry, energy is now the primary constraint to watch. Ask about the power strategy. Ask where the electrons are coming from.
Because the smart money, as the source calls it, is already moving. They aren't waiting for the utility company to catch up.
Which leaves us with that final provocative thought from the analysis. A question to take back to your teams, or maybe just to ponder on your own.
And what's that?
What is our plan B when the utility says no?
That's the question that keeps you up at night. Because no is becoming a very common answer.
And if you don't have a plan B, you might not have a future.
That's it for this deep dive into the high voltage side of AI. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next one.